and welcome to your weekly briefing on SWBN News Watch. I am Militias. Thanks for joining us tonight. We have good news coming from Iran. In recent years, when the word Iran appears in headlines, it often conjures images of religious persecution. However, remarkable stories unfolding within the borders of the Islamic Republic. Despite the risks and challenges, an increasing number of Iranians are embracing the Christian faith. According to testimonies and reports from various sources, including Ministries and the Christian Broadcasting Network, the rate of Christian conversions in Iran is increasing exponentially. David Yegnazar of Ministries stated that Iranians have become the most receptive people to the gospel, while the Christian Broadcasting Network found that Christianity is growing faster in Iran than in any other country. The roots of this phenomenon can be traced back to the extreme form of Shiite Islam enforced by the theocratic regime. Some Iranian church leaders have acknowledged that the oppressive nature of the regime and the disillusionment with Islam have contributed to Iran seeking solace in Christianity. They claim that the mosques are often empty and few people adhere to Islam, with some even suggesting that Ayatollah Khamenei, the founder of the Islamic Republic, unintentionally serves as an evangelist for Jesus. The German survey conducted in 2020 by Netherlands-based research group further confirmed that there are now over 1 million Christian believers in Iran. The house church movement, consisting of small gatherings of believers, has been instrumental in fostering this growth and is estimated to have over 1 million members. These house churches often meet discreetly in apartments or nondescript locations, with participants sharing their faith through quiet conversations, online Bible studies, and testimonies of answered prayers and visions. While the growth of Christianity in Iran is indeed remarkable, it is not without its challenges. The Iranian government views conversion from Islam as a threat to the country's Islamic identity and employs various measures to suppress Christian activities. House church gatherings can be subject to sudden invasions by state authorities, resulting in arrest, confiscation of materials, and violence. The aftermath of these raids often includes ongoing threats, loss of employment or education, confiscation of assets, and the endangerment of family members, including sexual violence against women and girls. Several organizations, including the Vatican and Protestant groups, have documented increased abuses by the regime, such as surveillance, arbitrary arrest, and imprisonment of house church leaders. Despite these risks, Iranian Christians remain remarkably courageous and steadfast in their faith. They endure persecution and continue to practice their beliefs, knowing the potential consequences they may face. The international community and organizations like Open Doors have condemned the lack of due process and unfair treatment faced by Christians in Iranian courts. As the world remains concerned about Iran's actions and intentions on the global stage, it is crucial to pray for the vibrant and growing Christian community within the country. Amidst the darkness of persecution, these believers shine as examples of resilience and courage. Their stories of faith and the remarkable growth of Christianity in Iran offer a glimmer of hope and serve as a testament to the enduring power of faith in Jesus Christ. A second story is coming from the United States. A controversy erupted in northern Utah after a school initially banned the Bible, deeming it inappropriate for middle and elementary school students. The decision has now been reversed following widespread protests and complaints from Christians across the world. Premier Christian News reported that over 70 separate complaints were lodged against the ban, leading to a reevaluation by the Davis School District. In a statement, the Davis School District explained the reversal, saying, and I quote, "Based on their assessment of community standards, the appeal committee determined that the Bible has significant, serious value for minors, which outweighs the violent or vulgar content it contains." The initial ban came because of new legislation introduced last year in Utah. The law granted parents the ability to challenge the appropriateness of books available to their children in libraries and schools. schools. Similar legislation is currently being proposed in Arkansas and Florida. However, someone whose identity remains undisclosed launched a campaign arguing that the Bible should be banned as it was, quote, one of the most sex-reading books around. Is what noting that last year, the United States witnessed a record number of attempts to ban various books, reflecting a broader debate over what is deemed appropriate for educational institutions. The Bible ban reversal in northern Utah has brought relief to Christians worldwide who rallied against the initial decision. It highlights the ongoing tension between parental rights, community standards, and the freedom to access religious texts in educational settings. Now that's a wrap on this very story. Stay with us for more updates on SWBN News Watch. Our next story highlights the rising insecurity and persecution of Christians in Nigeria. In the latest incident, multiple media sources reported that suspected Fulani militants attacked the Bawai and Chisu communities of Mangu local government area in Plateau State, Nigeria, burning 15 people to death while incinerating houses and a church. The attack took place last week Tuesday while residents of the communities were asleep. Reports suggest that the suspected Fulani militias entered the communities, setting homes on fire and leaving destruction in their wake. Witnesses recount the chaos, with one resident, Bamshak Ishaya, stating that the Church of Christ in Nations in Bawai, located along the Mangu-Bokos Road, was burned down along with numerous houses, vehicles and tricycles. In the neighboring Chisu community, residents had gunshots and sought refuge at their community leaders' residence, only to find it engulfed in flames. The interim management committee chairman of Mango local government area, Mr. Marcus, had to confirm the incident, but stated he was still gathering information at the time of filing this report. Meanwhile, Premium Times reported that at least 6 members of a vigilante group were killed in a night attack on Sambak, a community in Riyom local government area of Plateau State. This was a week after the attack on Bawai and Chisu communities left residents in a state of shock and grief. Persecution against Christians in Nigeria is at its peak, with Nigeria ranking higher than Afghanistan and also Saudi Arabia, known to be Islam's headquarters. Earlier this year, the Open Doors World Watch list showed that 90% of Christians killed in 2022 were in Nigeria. Similarly, the International Society for Civil Liberties and Rule of Law released a special investigative report claiming that in the first 100 days of 2023, the jihadist Fulani headsmen and other jihadist genocidal attacks carried out across Nigeria saw over 1,041 persons slain, while some are caused to disappear without traces till date. Reacting to the rising persecution of Christians in Nigeria, Catholic Bishop Matthew Kuka once described northern Nigeria as, quote, one large graveyard, a valley of dry bones, the nastiest and the most brutish part of Nigeria. While persecution in Nigeria has led to irreparable loss of lives and properties, the Ecclesia Yanoa Nigeria Church is hopeful despite losing over 1,300 local church auditoriums to Boko Haram insurgents. Earlier this year, the president of the EYN Church, Reverend Joel Billy, told newsmen that, quote, insurgency has also brought something good to the church. He further explained that many of those who had been displaced by insurgency to distant places had become a blessing to the church, as they had facilitated the establishment of branches in such places. Despite the many troubles facing the church in Nigeria, there is hope for restoration. In the famous ever-living words of Pa Elton, the cloud is full and is about to empty itself in Nigeria. Africa has a major role to play in the end-time revival. Pa Elton had explained that Nigeria and Africa has been mandated to pioneer the end-time revival that will shake the world and usher in the second coming of Christ. To that, the increasing persecution of Christians in Nigeria fits the biblical narrative of breakthroughs. As the popular song says, joy comes in the morning. Please stay with us for our final story. Last week in Geneva, the United Nations Human Rights Council received a report recommending member states resist religious freedom in response to demands from LGBTQ+ and abortion activists. Victor Madrigal-Bellows, the independent expert on sexual orientation and gender identity, presented a report claiming that individuals who identify as members of the LGBTQ+ community face violence, discrimination, and exclusion within religious communities. He argued that certain religious narratives go beyond the scope of freedom of religion or belief and should not be used to deny the human rights of LGBTQ+ persons. He went on to attack the use of traditional values, public morals, and national values, saying that these ideals deny the human rights of women, LGBTQ+ individuals, and religious minorities while promoting patriotism and patriarchal gender and family norms. Madrigal-Bellows is of the position that religious businesses should not have the right to refuse services to same-sex partnerships, even though it goes against their faith. Recall the famous case where Masterpiece Cake Shop's Jack Phillips, a Christian baker, politely refused to bake a cake for a gay couple back in 2012. He was sued, taken to court, and eventually won in a 7-2 decision at the U.S. Supreme Court in 2018. On the contrary, Madrigal-Bellows is pushing for legal action against goods and service providers who uphold their religious convictions in matters that concern abortion and persons who identify with the LGBTQ+ community. In recent times, there's been a crackdown on religious freedom under the guise of hate speech. In last week's edition of the SWBN News Watch, we told you how Facebook censored a post that read, "Jesus died so you could live," and claimed it went against the company's community standards. Also recall that United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres proposed a global digital compact that would have the internet in the control of international organizations. This, he said, is in an effort to crack down on hate speech, misinformation, and disinformation. So considering all this, let us know what your thoughts are. Calling good evil and evil good is not a new thing under the face of the sun. Even the prophet Isaiah talked about these times and the woes that will fall upon those who pervert the truth to suit their selfish agendas. On that, dear viewer, let's be encouraged. There is a reward for those who stand on the Lord's side during these last days. Of course, it won't be easy, but we know that God is able to lead us safely to his heavenly kingdom, and to him will be all the glory and all the praise. And this right here is where we wrap up for tonight. Thank you so much for being with us. Till we meet next Thursday 9 p.m. I remain Chimela Chike. Bye now.